Now that we know how to use if and else, let's take things a little further by combining conditions using Boolean operators. So the main Boolean operators that we're going to use are AND, where you check if this condition and that condition is true, or where you check if this condition or that condition is true, and then we also have the negation not, where we are checking if a condition is not true. We've actually already had a quick look at that, but we'll do it officially in this one. Okay, so let's start off by declaring a couple of variables. So the first one will be an integer, and that will be an age, which will give a value of 20. The next one will be a Boolean, has ID, and we'll give that an initial value of true. And so what we want to do here is we're going to check that both conditions are true. Or we're going to check that more than one condition is true, I should say. So here we're going to say if age is greater than or equal to 18, and then we want to say and the way that we say and is using double ampersands, like so. And so we're going to say they need to be 18 or over, and they must also have ID. And if that is the case, then we shall print out access granted. If that's not the case, let's throw an else into here, and we'll just say access denied. Okay, so that is your quick introduction to Boolean operators and the first Boolean operator that we use. We've used that there to actually check if both conditions evaluate to true. And so this whole condition is not true unless both of these are true. If one of these was false, if has ID was false, then that would evaluate to false, or the overall condition would evaluate to false. And in that case, we should hit else, and we should get access denied. But as they are 20 and they also have ID, here we should see access granted. Let's go and run this. So go run main.go, access granted. One of these evaluated to false. Let's change has ID to false, in which case the overall condition should evaluate to false and access should be denied. Let's go and run this. Okay, access denied. Okay, let's try another one. This time it will be or. So only one of these needs to evaluate to true. And the or operator looks like this. So here we'll say if is admin or, so we use a double pipe operator. So two pipes, or has key. So only one of those needs to be true in order for the whole thing to evaluate to true. So we'll say if is admin or has a key, then we can say access granted, else access denied. So we know that one of those is true because we can see that has key is true. So this whole thing should evaluate to true. Let's go and test that theory. Access granted. So if both of these were false, then this whole thing would evaluate to false, and then we should see access denied. And indeed we do. And then for the last one, we're going to say is banned is false, and we only want to grant access if the person is not banned. And the way that we invert a condition to not is we use an exclamation. So here we'll say if not, so that means that we are inverting the condition to not. And so if not is banned, meaning they are not banned, then we'll say you may enter. So here is banned is false, but we are inverting that using a negation, which means that this should now evaluate to true, and we should see you may enter. And indeed we do. And one last example for thoroughness, which we'll use parentheses. So here we're starting with an age of 20, has ID is true, is admin is false, and then we're using parentheses to group these conditions. So this must evaluate to true as a whole condition. So if all of that evaluates to true, or if is admin, then we have access granted. So they need to be over 18 and they also need to have ID. But if that evaluates to false, then what we will do is we'll move on to is admin. So one more bite at the cherry, if you like. So here we're starting with age is 20 and has ID is true, but admin is false. So what do you expect to see here? Just think about it for a second. So age is 20, has ID is true. So this side evaluates to true. And with an OR condition, only one side needs to evaluate to true. It does not matter in this scenario that admin is false. So we should see that access is granted. Let's test that theory once more. Access is granted. How about if age was 17? What do you expect to happen here? Age is no longer greater than 18. So this, we can say, is already going to evaluate to false, as is this. So we should fall through to the else. Always think ahead before you run things. Just make sure you know in your mind or you've set an expectation mentally. So there are no big surprises when we see that access is denied. Okay, time for a challenge. So this one might feel a little bit harder than some of the challenges that we've done so far, because Booleans, when you're dealing with negations and stuff like that, I think they require just a little bit more thought, a little bit more mental traction, I think. So here's the challenge. Create a program with 3 variables, and those variables will be logged in, and that will be a Boolean, true or false, is staff, Boolean, true or false, has permission, Boolean, true or false, and then write a condition that prints action allowed only if the user is logged in and they are staff or have permission. So a little clue there, because we'll put that on one line. So the user is logged in and they are staff or have permission. So think about how you would do that. And then finally, just test different combinations of values. So like I say, might be a little bit more involved than the challenges we've done so far, but the ones that make your brain work are the ones that really help you remember this stuff. Pause me now and give that a go. Okay, so let's have a look at one possible solution. The first thing we need to do is we need to set up these variables. So what I've done is I've set logged in to true, I've set is staff to false, and I've set has permission equals true. And then what we need to do is create this condition. So what we're saying is if the user is logged in, so we have a logged in variable, and then we're saying and they are staff or have permission. So that sounds like something which needs to be evaluated as one step, doesn't it? So we're going to say and then they are staff or have permission. So what I'm going to do is wrap this in parentheses. So is staff or have permission. And then just let's print out some messages. We'll also throw an else in here. And then before we run this, let's just think about what we expect to happen here. So if logged in and, so what that means is this has to be true. And the overall evaluation of this has to be true. So we know that logged in is true. So we've got past that point. And they need to be staff or they need to have permission. Is one of those true? Well, yes, they have permission. So they're not staff, but that's okay because we have a or. We just need one of these to be true. Has permission is true. I'm expecting here to see action allowed. Let's go and run this. Okay, and action is allowed. How about if has permission was false? What do we think would happen there? Well, it means that both of these would be false. This needs to be true and this entire side needs to be true, but now this evaluates to false, so I'm expecting to see action denied. Let's run it, and indeed we get action denied. Okay, how did you get on with that one? Hope you had a go at the challenge. Hope it got your brain working a little bit. One thing I'll tell you about Booleans is that I've been programming for many years and I still have to sort of take my time and look over Boolean conditions, especially if there's multiple conditions in there, and just think about what I expect to happen and just run it with different values. So if you didn't get it right first time, or if you find it a little hard to evaluate conditions on the fly, then that's perfectly normal. And the best way and easiest way to do it is to actually just run the code and think about what you expect to happen. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that one. Give the video a like, make sure that you're subscribed, and if you have a friend that's learning Go, why not share this video with them, see how they get on with the challenge as well.